So now I want to talk a little bit about how migrations work in Tsugi. Migrations are really sort of adapted from a combination of Rails migrations and Moodle migrations. So you'll see, if you're familiar with Rails, you'll say, oh, that's kind of like Rails. If you're familiar with Moodle, it's kind of like Moodle. But it's not a clone of either one. It's sort of a simplification of things. Partly I'm simpler than Moodle, and simpler than Moodle in that I only support one database, and I'm simpler than Rails in one support database. I don't have a demigration, right? I don't have a backwards migration, and Rails does a better job of backwards migration. I just have forwards migration. But the forward migration is much more Moodle-like in that there can be it's far easier to add active, intelligent components to a Moodle database migration than it is, I think, for a Rails. But I'm not a Rails expert, not a fan either, so there we go. So we want, in effect, the completely automated schema updates like Moodle. So you install a new Moodle and you hit a page and it goes, hey, your database changed. Your model, this code that I'm running doesn't match the database that we've got. Hit a button to upgrade. And it should be convenient for both like fresh new installations. You shouldn't have to run a bunch of SQL scripts at the beginning. And if you like just do if you're running like from Git and you do a Git pull and there's some new migration that needs to happen, it should just like say, hey, run a migration. Bam, and it should run it. And so the Tsugi PHP is designed for real easy migrations. The Java one and other Tsugis might take different approaches, but mine takes a very simple. So I took the idea from Moodle of the concept of a version number, and the version number is based on the date and time that the change was made. And so it's really easy to sort of just kind of like, oh wow, I'm working on the peer grader and I need to add a column, and oh, now I got to make a migration. So what you do is you basically say, oh, it's October 17th at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and so you just come up with a big long date with the year, and that is date and time, year, month, day, hours, minutes. And that's what you call the version of the database. So any database that's sort of before the moment that you're making this change has to be upgraded. So you have to do an alter table for databases without that. And there is a table borrowed very similarly from our friends at Moodle called LMS plugins, and it tells all of the database tables, all the tools and their database upgrade scripts, and then what the latest version of these things are. And so there is an upgrade process. Now, there's also a global database version, and this is used to so we don't have to keep hitting the database to check what the maximum of all those versions are, the maximum of these versions. So we just update this from time to time. When we make a change, it's the database version, and it makes it so that we can, every time we hit index.php, we can check to see if the database version is up to date effectively, and it tells us when to run our upgrade script, and it's stored in setup.php. So it should be the maximum when you change one database.php and you sort of up its database version, you should also update the global database version so everyone knows to run upgrade scripts. You could run the upgrade. It just doesn't change how the upgrade script works. It does, when the upgrade script is running, it does check all of the plugins and all the databases and looks for it. What this is to show you when it's time to run the upgrade script. And this is what it looks like when it's time to run the upgrade script. It says, hey, database version is such and so, the software version is such and so, please run the upgrade. So that whole global upgrade script is really aimed at telling you that it's time to run the upgrade script. And the upgrade script, of course, is under admin. It's the same thing that you do to create the tables in the first place. And you can run that little migration over and over and over again, because the first migration brings you up, and then running them again, they're up to date until you do a git pull or download a new version or something and says, whoa, it's time to do this. So this is what the upgrade.php looks like. Hopefully by now you've done this, and you've done it to create them. This is an example of one where things are in great shape. and the versions are all up to date. And basically the idea here is it goes through, there's tool folders, and you can have more than one folder like mod and core, local. So it goes through all of those tool folders looking for files named database.php, because database.php, stolen from Moodle of course, is how migrations are stored. And then when it sees it, then it looks at that file and says, oh, when I look at that date and check to see if you need to do an upgrade. Here's the version that's in the, here's the old version, the current version of the table. Do you actually need to upgrade the table? Then it upgrades the table and then sends back a new version, and then that's updated. So you can hit this as often as you like, and hopefully when they get up to the right version, it does nothing. So these database.php files, again, the name of that was taken from Moodle, but I take a slightly different approach. Moodle used kind of an object-oriented approach, but I've created these global variables called database uninstall, and it's an array of statements for the drop tables in the right order to uninstall the tool. Database install is an array of table name create statements, table name create statement, table name create statements. And then database upgrade is if after you did the first database create statement and then you added a column, but you want to then auto upgrade, then you have to add a little thing to database upgrade to say alter table, add column, yada yada. So I'll go over these in some detail. So here is the attendance tool, database.php, which is a very simple example of one. Database uninstall, which I don't actually have supported yet, is just a drop table. And they all have the prefix, right? They all sort of borrow from $CFG prefix with the thing of, do you want to have a D underscore for, P underscore for production and a D underscore for dev. And you can't make production and dev databases, but you need to prefix all the tables, which I hope you don't have to do. But in case you do, again, borrowed from Moodle, we do that because some people will be running this in very low, $1.99 hosting providers. I want to be able to run this on $1.99 hosting providers. But so database uninstalls as an array of drop tables. Database install is array of arrays. The 0 element is the name of the table, so it just goes and checks, does this table exist? Oh, if it doesn't exist, oh, conveniently, I've got the create table for it, right? So there's the create table, and it's got the rules, the constraint rules that we talked about. You talk about your uniques, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and you got your prefixes, and away you go. And so there's rules to create that, and the upgrade is optional. So this is a very simple one because this is the attendance tool and needs one more table, and it just links in the way we drew that picture before. Now the database upgrade, this looks a little more like Moodle. It is an anonymous function, and it passes in the old version, and it can look at the CFG for prefixes, and it's just like Moodle, right? If the old version of this table is less than this, then run this alter table and add the regrade column, and then you put out some log messages and run the query, and then you tell it that you're now up to this new version. And then it will update that LMS plugin so that it doesn't run this again. Or it will run it again. It'll just be passing in a version that is this, and so this less than will be false. And that's how it keeps from running it twice. Okay? And what happens is, as time progresses, you put more and more things down here and change this number. So, like if today you added something, you would take whatever today's date is and put that in here and have an if, old version less than whatever today's date is, and then some other alter table statement. And this thing just grows and grows and grows. Again, very similar to how Moodle works. Now the other thing is if you're adding a column like I did in this case of the pure grading that I had to add a regrade feature, I had to add a regrade column so that I could mark whether it needed regrading or not. This has to do with my batch processing of auto regrading to recompute peer grades in case my dynamic code to recreate blah, 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 blah. There's a little batch process. It's really cool and necessary. But the key is just because you put a alter table in here, what we don't want to make it so that the data model stays the original data model, so we changed the create statement, because there's really sort of two ways in. There is like the old guys, and then they get upgraded, and then there's the new guys, and what happens is the upgrade gets called, but it puts the date of the actual creation, and so the upgrade goes, oh, I'm already past that version. So you want to keep the create statement perfectly up to date, and then the upgrade is how you catch up for folks who are already in production. Okay? So you don't want this create table to be the old one. You want it to be the most current, and then you want the database upgrade to be the way to catch up if you encounter one that's older. So, covered a lot of things. We talked about the core database structures, the core tables. We've got the conventions, which are sort of 90% Rails-like, the SHA-256 key convention, because I can't assume that these user IDs and context IDs are short, and any number I pick will be too short. So I hashed them all. Rules for tool tables, mostly the rule is how you name them and how you connect them back so that the on-delete cascade works for everybody. The big join, which is that big long left join that makes it so that the framework only touches the database once plus the nonce, and then tool creation and tool table creation and the rules for that, and then how you do migrations as you build those tools. Okay, thanks.